Cool. So yeah, I'm Beverly Newing. I'm a front-end developer with accessibility specialism at the Ministry of Justice. And today I'm going to be running a session on Introduction to Accessibility Testing. So first off, I'd like to say thank you to my this workshop. Thank you, James. So what are we going to cover today? We are going to cover for 10 minutes an introduction to testing techniques. We're then going to spend internet connection unstable. I'm going to turn my camera off. How do I do that? Video.
It's still working okay at the moment, Beverly.
Okay, oh good. Is this any better now?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, great. Internet troubles. So yeah, we're going to spend the first 10 minutes doing an intro to testing techniques. We're then going to spend 30 minutes doing an interactive exercise, and then I'm going to spend about 5 minutes wrapping up. And there might be time for questions afterwards. We'll see if we get to that point. Cool. So first off with testing, it feels like a really obvious point, but the first thing you need to do is understand what it is that you're testing. So the exercise we're going to be going through is quite short, so we're just going to do every page. But if you're looking at a bigger service, you want to take a sample of pages. And also you'll need to understand what it is that you're supposed to be able to do with the service. And then accessibility testing is kind of a layer on top of that. So it's extending it, it's thinking about, is this usable by other people too? So some people might be using a screen reader, so they're hearing the page content instead of seeing it. And some people might be interacting with it with the tool like Dragon, which is a voice control tool, or an eye tracker. So you're really thinking about, is this going to work for other technologies too? The definition of accessibility that I like is one by Mozilla, which is accessibility is the process of making something as usable by as many people as possible. Testing with those technologies is beyond the scope of this workshop, so that's quite involved testing. It takes a bit more training to be able to do that sort of testing. But what we will be covering today is automated testing and manual testing. So we're going to start off with the manual testing. So you will have seen in the email for this workshop that we're going to be using Wave. If you've not installed it yet, I'd recommend installing Wave as a plugin. If you can't install it as a plugin, you can use it as a browser-based tool, but I find the plugin is a bit easier to use. So if you can, go with the plugin route. And I think James has just posted some instructions about that into the chat, so thank you, James. So I'm going to do a quick demo of Wave. So let me just. So I didn't want to pick on anybody's website, so I have made my own silly little Tiger King website, and I'll put those issues in it so we can see a kind of sample of what Wave issues would look like. So let me just demo how you turn Wave on. Find the cursor again. Cool. So to run Wave, there's a little icon in the toolbar that you can click to trigger it. This is if it's a plugin, and it will pop up a little sidebar on your page to the left-hand side, and it will surface some information about your web page. So here it's saying it thinks it's found 5 errors, 8 contrast errors, and 3 alerts. So when we're using Wave, the things that we want to focus on are errors, contrast errors, and alerts. And it will put little kind of like icons in the site. So if we're looking at the top of the screen, there's one at the top, there's a little red box with a, I guess like a globe icon in it. If you click on it, it tells you document language is missing. And below that, we have one next to the navbar items. Click on it, it tells us this is very low contrast. As well as issues, it will also surface information like alt text. So we've got an image of a map down here, and then next to it is a green icon and the text map. This is a good example of where Wave can't really tell you if it's an issue or not. So it's telling us that there is alt text, which is map, but it can't tell us if that is sufficient. And in this case, map isn't really sufficient alt text because it's not really telling us the information the map is conveying. If you want to use Wave as a browser tool, so on the website, you can just put in a web address here and it will pop up a very similar view, just it will not be installed on your computer. But on that point of Wave needs some interpretation, automated testing only finds around 30% of issues. So it's a really good starting point, and it's good for, I guess, starting to analyze your page, but it is very much just a starting point. And this statistic comes from a really good survey a really good I guess, study that GDS did a couple of years ago, where they went through and assessed all of the different free automated testing tools. Wave isn't actually the best one, but it's the one that I find the easiest to use, so it's the one that I tend to go to. And the other thing we want to do is manual testing. So manual testing involves the tab key on the keyboard. So sometimes this will say the word tab, sometimes it'll be like the arrow against the wall, like a line. It's underneath it's on the left-hand side of the keyboard, and it's underneath the numbers. And this is how you'd use this to navigate through interactive elements on a page. So I'm going to do a quick demo of this. So taking an example service, like an MOJ service. Let's go back to the top. Okay, so I'm at the top. I press tab to go onto the page. It shows up the skip to main content link, which is good. We do want to have that. That allows us to bypass lots of navigation. Pressing tab again goes to the GovUK link, which is interactive. Next to the search bar, which we want to input things into. Next into the button that triggers the search. Next we'll go to coronavirus. Yep. Next we'll go to home, and so on. So the order should kind of follow the visual layout, and also it should be really easy to see where the focus state is. So here we're using the GDS design system, where it's the bright yellow with the black border underneath, which is really good. A note on this, actually, if you're using Firefox or Safari, you will need to turn tabbing on. In Chrome it works out of the box, but Firefox and Safari, you'll need to turn it on. Yeah, we can share a link on that later on if anybody's stuck on that. So back to the slides. I really like geese. I think they're really cute. They're like little dinosaurs. The Ministry of Justice office in London is next to St James's Park, and there are lots of geese in there. They're really cute, lots of different types. So I've built a little service so I can record all the geese that I see on my lunch break. But I built this service in quite a short time frame. I wasn't really thinking about accessibility when I built it, so there might be some issues in it. So we're now in the exercise part of this section. So what we're going to do, how this is going to work, is there are 6 pages in total. I'm going to give you all about 2 to 3 minutes per page to find issues. And then we're then going to discuss the answers page by page. So if you've got any questions about that, do ask in the chat, and we can answer to clarify. But yeah, we're going to spend 3 minutes. You're going to spend 3 minutes per page doing testing with those techniques, and then we're going to discuss what you found. So yeah, testing with the tab key first, then test with Wave, and ask questions in the chat. And when you think you found all the issues, you can mark, you can put like a thumbs up using the, I think it's, I can't see it at the moment, but it's, there's a little thing in the Zoom bar which you can react, and there's either applause or the thumbs up. So when you're finished, put a thumbs up, and that will help me know if we need to, get to the answers sooner rather than later. Cool, so there's a link which I think James has posted in the chat. There is a start page. We're not going to start on that. We're going to start on the next page. Not that one. Down a little bit. Cool. So when you go to this URL, you'll be taken to a start page, which tells you a bit about the exercise. Once you've had a read through, and if you want, had a look at the kind of task list, click continue. And this page here with the orange banner is the one that we are, orange banner, and this is not our government service. This is the page that we're going to be testing. So some of you might not have Wave at the moment. I'm going to give us a little bit longer for this section, 5 minutes, for you to get started with testing. Yeah, any questions? So you've got 5 minutes for this one. Yeah, as James has said in the chat, if you find things, post them in the chat and share them with us. Then we'll discuss them in the answers section. So we're now halfway through. There's 2.5 minutes left. And yeah, you react with the thumbs up when you've finished, so that I know if we need to finish early, then we'll go straight to the answers. And yeah, a reminder, just for now, we're just sticking to this very first start page. So we have 1 minute left. Last 30 seconds. And yeah, reminder, we're just sticking to the start page for now. So just this one page. We'll move on to the next pages shortly. Cool, so time is up. So we are now going to go through some answers. So James, are there any in the comments that we want to maybe start with? I can see some people have mentioned the tab order on the right hand side. Yes, this is issue number 1. So let me demonstrate this. So we're tabbing through, it's going through the breadcrumbs. Press tab should go to start now. Press tab should go to read about geese on Wikipedia. Press tab should go to visit the RSPB website, but it hasn't, it's gone to more. So there's a confusing order there. It skipped our RSPB website. If I press tab again, it goes back up. So yeah, this is a weird tab order, and this is an issue. In this particular example, it's not huge. But you can imagine if, say, for example, somebody was using software that zoomed in really far, really close to the page, you know, magnifies everything. If the link went to, say, home instead, that would be quite a big, you know, it would drag them across the page, and it would be quite confusing. So yeah, that is issue number 1. I think also people have noted, I saw it earlier, is it gone? About the focus state of these links. So whilst we're on it, at the moment, visit the RSPB website it's got the focus, but you can't really see it. So it's not got that typical bright yellow black underline that you would expect to see on a GovUK website. So yeah, that is issue number 2. Anything else, James?
We've got two H1s.
Yes, 2 H1s. So this is one that we can identify, what we can start to see with Wave. So I'm going to open up Wave. So as we can see here, it's showing that there are 0 errors, 0 contrast errors, and 0 alerts. So this is where you need to start to get into the interpretation of it. So looking at the information, Wave is telling us about the page. It tells us recorded goose sighting is a H1. There's the H1 in the little blue circle. But information about geese is also a H1. Ideally, you should only have one H1 per page. And then everything else should be hierarchical. So information about geese is kind of a subheading of recorded goose sightings, so it should be a H2.
Chris and Debbie have spotted the more link.
Oh, good spot. Cool, yeah, so we have a link here at the bottom of information about geese that just says more. This is very descriptive. In isolation, this wouldn't make very much sense. More in the visual layout, we can see it refers to more information about geese, but really it should be a bit more descriptive. This is because some screen reader users will scan a page by looking at all the links in isolation. So they'll pull all the links out and look at them, but you wouldn't know where more would take you without a visual context. So that's issue number 3, right?
None others
Oh,
that
cool.
people have spotted themselves so far.
Cool. So there's one more issue. And this is, so let's click on the links. So I'm going to click read more about geese. It takes me to Wikipedia. I can press the backspace on the keyboard to get back to where I was. Now let's click RSPB website. So you might have noticed in the top of the browser, this is opened in a new tab. So now when I press the back key, it won't go back to the previous page because it's got a different tab history. So this can be a bit confusing, especially if you weren't aware this was going to happen. So a good thing to do with links open in a new page is to have some text in brackets that says opens in a new tab, or really not have it open in a new tab at all. There are some use cases where you would want that to happen. So if somebody is filling out a form, a multi-page form, and you want to have them do a survey, you don't want them to lose their progress. So, lose that. So you would open the survey in a new page. But it's more of an edge case type thing. As a general rule, it's best not to have things open in a new tab. And that is issue number 5. So that is all the issues on that page. Cool. So yeah, we did good. 4 out of 5. And don't be disheartened if you didn't find all of them. This is just page 1 of 6. So you're going to get a chance to practice these things. And also, accessibility is cross-discipline. There are some things that are more content-focused, some things are more developer-focused. So yeah, that's why we're doing it as a group. So the next page. Now that you're more acquainted with the testing techniques, I'm going to give you just 3 minutes instead of 5. And again, same as before, put questions in the chat. And if you are finished early, then do the thumbs up so we'll know to start or to go to the answers sooner. Cool, so 3 minutes, go. Oh, 1 minute in and we've already found 3 of the issues. So we are 1.5 minutes through. Yeah, again, if you're finished, put the thumbs up. And yeah, for the moment, it looks like you're all still working through it, so we'll give it a bit longer. And I agree with James. Everybody does like geese. I think they're really cute. So we're in the last 30 seconds now. Cool. So 3, 2, 1. Time is up. Great. So sorry about the dog in the background. So what have we got, James?
We have got, first of all, no page title.
Yes, good spot. So some of you might have seen it in the browser. At the top, at the top of the browser above the address bar, there's a picture of a goose icon, but the text next to it is record a goose sighting .herokuapp.com, which is the URL, which isn't very descriptive. This can be an issue for some screen readers because they will read out the page title when the page loads, and it's a way of orienting yourself, I guess, within, orienting yourself basically in where you are. So it's best practice to have that. But if you didn't spot it in the tab, it's also something that Wave will tell you about. So when we load Wave up, it says one error. And this error is the T icon at the top with the cross in it. When you click on it, it says missing or uninformative page title. So that's issue number 1. What else?
Duncan spotted the poor contrast on select if you like geese.
Yes, poor contrast. It's another one that Wave has also helped us identify. So there's the red square box next to select yes if you like geese. When you click on it, it says very low contrast. So the GDS design system does use light grey, but I've deviated from it. I know I wanted it to be, I don't know, slightly lighter grey, because light grey on a white background seems to be fashionable at the moment in web design, but it has upset the colour contrast. So really it should be a higher contrast to make it a bit more readable. Good spot.
A few people have kind of queried the warning about a legend. It seems to be a bit confusing there.
Cool, yes. So there is, so Wave is raised an alert, which is above the contrast error. We click on it, it says field set missing a legend. So this is one of the ones that needs a bit more interpretation. It is maybe more of a developer focused one. But legends are important when it comes to radio buttons. So without the legend, a screen reader might have difficulty understanding what the question is. So when you go, if you just tab straight to yes or no, it would say, it would just say yes, or it would just say no. Whereas if you've associated the legend properly, it will read out something like select yes if you like geese, yes, or select yes if you like geese, no. So it will give you that question. This is something that we can visually infer from the page because we can see the title and then the visual association, but we need to make sure that's present programmatically. So this is specifically for radio buttons and checkboxes. It's particularly important for those elements. Cool.
There's a query about the REO described by flag.
Ooh. That is a good.
Just ask what it is. So this is basically helping to, it basically points the information towards the hint text there about select if you like geese, in addition to the actual question itself.
Yes. Yeah, thank you, James. Took me a minute there, I was like, what? Yeah, it's to associate the hint text with it as well, as James said.
So next one is continue button. Can't tab to the continue button.
Awesome. Yes. So if we do our keyboard testing and we get skip to main content and pressing tab again, I'm expecting it to go to yes. Press tab again, it goes to no. Note this is probably, this behavior will depend on your browser. So I'm using Firefox. In Firefox, tab will take you to both. If you're using Chrome, it might have just gone through one, so yes. Yeah, this is kind of how browsers implement it, but you'll always be able to use the arrow keys. So when testing radio buttons, yeah, it's the arrow keys you want to test. So now I'm going to press tab, expecting to go to continue. It has not gone to continue. We can see a little bit of a focus state around the browser tab, so the recorder goose sighting.heroku thing next to the goose icon. So yeah, that is issue number 4. So we can't get to the continue button by the tab, which means if you're a keyboard user, you might not understand how to progress to the next page, at which point you're stuck. And that is issue 4 of 4 for this page. So great. So we're now going to move on to the 3rd page, which is what type of goose did you see? So again, I'm going to give you 3 minutes. Put your answers in the chat when you found them. Yeah, and put this mark as a thumbs up when you're finished, so I know if we want to finish early. 3 minutes, go. You can see in the chat we found 2 issues so far, which is good. So we're 1.5 minutes through, so yeah, half time. And again, if you finished, mark as the thumbs up. So last 30 seconds, so get your last tests in and comments in the chat, and then we'll go through the answers. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and time is up. Cool. So yeah, again, what have we got, James?
So Chris has spotted a really sneaky one, the title, page title.
Yes, good spot. But remember on the previous page, we didn't have a page title, so it was just a URL. On this page, we do have one. But the page title is just boop, recorder goose sighting, which is cute, but it's not really informative about the purpose of the page. So a better page title would be something like, what type of take his spot. What else have we got?
Basically, the tab focus seems to be disappearing at an odd place. I'm not sure what's going on.
Yeah. So if we start at the top, skip to main content, I'm going to press tab again. It has disappeared. It's gone somewhere weird. If I press tab again, it will now reappear on the input field. So it's disappeared, and that's kind of weird. The skip to main content link is a good example of something that is normally hidden but can take tab focus, but it appears when you're focused on it, so you know what's happening. Whereas here, we've got no idea what's going on. So again, maybe a bit more of a developer one. We're going to have a little bit of an expect around in the HTML. So it was above, tell us what type of goose it was. And if we look here, we've got a visually hidden piece of text that is a ghost goose. So we've got ghosts in our service. And yeah, but that's an issue. And there's no real purpose to this. It's just, I don't know, a bug. So yeah, that is issue number 2.
Okay, a few people have queried the placeholder text.
Yes, good spot. This is the 3rd issue, the placeholder text. So internet connection is unstable. Can you still hear me okay? Oh, good. Okay, good. Yeah, so we've got some placeholder text here, which is black spur-winged goose. This is kind of helpful. I mean, it tells us an example of a goose, so an example of input we might want to, put into this form field, but really it belongs outside of the form field. So it should be like underneath, tell us what type of goose it was as text. And the problem with placeholder text, let me just close the DevTools, is when you start to type, it disappears. And maybe, you want to see what it is, or hang on a minute, what was it? You'd have to delete your input to see what it was. So yeah, that is the 3rd issue. Fun fact, the black spur-winged goose is actually a type of goose. It is it's the type of beetle that's toxic to humans. Bit of goose trivia. And that is all of the issues I've added into this page. I saw there were also some questions about oh no, missing. Oh, is my audio going?
It's a little bit crackly sometimes. It's not here. Keep going, I think.
Okay, cool. Did you all catch the fun goose fact? It's not important. I'll put it on Twitter. And that is the last of the issues. I also saw some people talking about breadcrumbs and back buttons. I don't think this is in the GDS design system, but it is a good point. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, James?
The back button, yeah, I mean, there is a guideline that says you should always have a kind of a way of like going back to the start. A kind of a home link should always be on a website. A little bit more debatable for a kind of a service like this, or for a checkout, for example, where you are kind of trying to keep people on a particular kind of linear flow. So yes, there probably should be a back button on here, to be honest. But I think for simplicity, we've just not included.
Yeah, thank you.
So arguably more of a usability than accessibility thing, isn't it? So it's a thing that would affect anybody, not just people with access needs.
Yeah, and that's a good distinction to make as well, that kind of difference in the definitions. Cool, so we're now going to go on to the 5th page, so page 5 out of 6. And this is when did you see the goose? So I'm going to give you 3 minutes, not 5 minutes. 3, 2, 1. Put your answers in the chat when you find them. No, this is page 4 of 6, sorry. And again, as before, put the thumbs up when you're finished. So we are about halfway through, so 1 minute and 30 seconds left.
So someone said there's no validation on the date entry. Yes, that's true. Again, that's a sort of limitation of this service, and it would be a usability issue rather than an accessibility one. So a good spot, but not no cigar.
Yeah, that's on the to-do list for this.
Again, similarly with the no constraints on what to type in as dates, this is actually matches the design pattern. So if you want to debate that, go on to GitHub and debate the constraints issue. Sean says there's no highlighting on the tabbing as you go through. It should be.
Yeah. We're in the last 5 seconds now. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and time's up. So yeah, the tabbing one. So I'm gonna tab through. For me, I am getting highlighting. Yeah, it'd be interesting to hear what browser you're in, Sean.
Heard a couple of people say the H1 is being skipped and the example text is being skipped when tabbing through.
So when you're tabbing, you should only really you should only land on interactive elements. So we've landed on skip to main content because when you press enter, something will happen. Similarly for form fields, you want to be able to input something. So again, an action is required. And with buttons, again, it's something you can interact with because you press continue. Well, it will take you to the next page, so it's a link rather than a button. But things like text, they are not interactive, so you shouldn't really be able to navigate to them. Screen reader users will read that text using commands that are associated with that screen reader technology. So they've got a different way of reading content. But yeah, good question. It's really good to ask those things. There's a lot of it's good to ask those questions. Another one, do we need the title? Do we need the second part? So by second part, I'm assuming the recorded goose sighting. Yeah, it's good to include the page title and I guess what that page lives on. So if this lived on the Gov UK, saying it would also be good to have Gov UK added onto the end as well. Because without this context, we wouldn't know what it was for. So when did you see the goose? Without knowing the service it's in, you wouldn't know who's asking that question. Cool. But yeah, there are no actual intentional issues in this page. Yeah, there are 0 issues on this one. So yeah, I added this one as a trick page. Cool. So we're going to move on to the 5th page of 6. I'm going to give you 2 minutes for this one because you're getting the answers quite quick in the chat. And also we're getting towards the end. So 2 minutes, starting now, so go. So we are halfway through, 1 minute left. I see somebody's found the biscuits and cakes. So we are now in the last 10 seconds. I'm approaching 5. So 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Great. So yeah, what have we got, James?
So the main one people found, well done to Adam and Lee, I think, is the heading level skips.
Yes. So if we open up Wave, it will tell us there's a H1 at the top, so check your answer before sending your application. And there's also a H3, and Wave has flagged this as an alert. So it's got the little orange square box with the H in it next to it. Yeah, really headings should be kind of hierarchical, and you shouldn't skip them. And yeah, I mean, there might be some edge cases, but as a general rule, yeah, good to keep them hierarchical. And Goose Details is a direct, I guess, child heading of the H1. What else have we got?
And then people have flagged that they think the change links don't make sense out of context.
Cool. Yeah, so this is an interesting one. Yeah, looking at it visually, all we can see is change. However, and this is kind of to avoid visual repetition, the design system is quite clever. I think Oliver Byford's talk goes into some of the details like this. It's a really good talk. Yeah, so if we actually have a look at the change link, look at the HTML, again, this is a bit more of a developer one, there's actually some visually hidden text. So this is still part of the link, we just can't visually see it. So screen reader users will hear them off full link. But I've put biscuits and cake for 2 of the links, which is not really, I mean, it's the right direction, but it's yeah, not quite the right text. An example of a good one is the final one. So change the date you saw the goose. And that is the 2 issues per page for that page.
That's it.
Yeah, cool. So we're now going to move on to the 6th and final page. So again, because you're getting quite good at this, I'm going to give you 2 minutes instead of the 3. So the final page it's got goose recorded at the top. It's 2 minutes starting now. So we are halfway through, 1 minute left. I'm loving the puns, James, in the chat. So the question, what is fully justified text? Justified text is when you try and make the block of text all like end at the line endings all end at the same place. So whereas text naturally will have like different letters in it before it gets to the end of the sentence. Messing that explanation up a bit. Oh no, internet issues again. And time is up. Cool. Hopefully the audio will stay okay. Cool. So yeah, what have we got in the chat, James?
So from top to bottom, we've got use of block capitals at the top.
Yes, good spot. So at the top of the page, we've got Goose recorded in all caps. This is quite shouty, and also it kind of removes the natural shape of the word. So when you have things not in all caps, you have like some letters are lower, they've got more of a shape to them, and that can make it easier for some people with dyslexia to read the word. But yeah, I find it quite hard to read all capital letters. It's quite tiring. The reference number is an example of a good time to use all caps because it probably needs to match. It's probably like it needs to match something in a database. But Goose recorded doesn't need to be shouty. What else have we got?
Well done to Christine and Adam and Debbie for spotting there's no alt text on the graphic, on the animation.
Yes, this is something that Wave can help us see. So there's a little error next to it, missing alternative text. So a screen reader user might miss out on this really good Goose content. What else have we got?
Okay, Daniel did really well to spot that the GIF just keeps playing without stopping.
Yes, yeah, good spot. This is one that I didn't spot when I first added it in, and somebody raised it on the GitHub repo. Yes, a good spot. Yeah, with GIFs you should be able to have a way of pausing them so that it's not, continuing to play, because it can be quite distracting and it's, yeah, an accessibility issue. Cool, and there is one more which we kind of touched on a little bit, is the justified text. So justified text, I think I'm explaining it, maybe not the best, but it's when you try and make sure all the lines end at exactly the same point. In order to do that, you space the words out a little bit, kind of depending on how much they need to be spaced, which again distorts kind of the shape of the sentence flow and can make it a little bit harder to read. And that is it. So we have found all of the issues in our service. Well done. Thank you, James. That was really good facilitation. So I'm going to go back to the slides now for a little bit, and there might be some time for questions at the end. So yeah, well done for finding all those issues. Don't be disheartened if you didn't find all of them. Again, some of them are, more developer focused, some are more content focused. Yeah, I guess for accessibility testing, the more people we get involved, the better. Because it's a team sport, accessibility needs to involve everybody. It's also easier to include accessibility from the start. Our Goose service is currently quite small, it's only 6 pages. It wouldn't take too much work to go through and fix those things. But you can imagine if it was a much bigger service, or if you use the same templates over across different pages, it's going to be much harder to fix. So yeah, the sooner you start, the easier it is. This testing also does not replace a WCAG audit, so Web Content Accessibility Guidelines audit. But what it is useful for is identifying issues before you need to, or before you get the audit results. So it can start, so you can I guess, stagger out your work a bit more. So it's not all coming back in one go. Another reason to do this testing is it can help when you're doing user testing. So if you identify these basic issues before going out for user testing with users with access needs, your users are then more likely to be able to actually test your service and not just have to have to identify bugs that you could have found with testing these tests. Accessibility is a process. So we've also just done 1 round of tests on our Goose service at this point in time, but it's likely to grow and change over time. So, maybe in the future I want to allow people to tell me where they saw the Goose, like the location of it, and so on. So it's probably going to grow and expand in the future. So we need to keep building these tests in, as well as including WCAG audits, writing your accessibility statement based on the WCAG audit, and testing with users with access needs. And you also do need to do some assistive technology testing if and when you can, but that's above the scope of this workshop. So GDS have published lots of really good resources from combinations of assistive technology to test with, to how to do basic checks, to how to test with users with access needs. So yeah, lots of really good guidance. And yeah, that is pretty much it from me. I don't know if there's time for any questions.
Yeah, thanks, Beverly. That was great. Thanks also, James, for facilitating the interactive parts of that. That worked really well, I think, doing it that way. I think I think we're able to forgive you now that terrible swan pun, significant. That's the worst pun I've ever seen, I think, and I'm pretty bad at puns myself. Yeah, we have got a couple of minutes for questions. If anyone wants to raise anything in the chat, we can go through those now. If anyone's got anything they want to talk about, and thanks, Beverly, for giving a plug for Ollie's session, which is going to be at 2 o'clock as well. Yeah, the recording will be published on YouTube at some point, and that will be repeated in social media for everyone. Okay, question, can you explain what ARIA means again, please?
So ARIA is information you can put onto your HTML, I guess, to give additional information to screen reader users. The first rule of ARIA is don't use ARIA. So if you use semantic HTML, you normally won't have to use ARIA. And there are some instances where you would need to use it, where, say, for example, JavaScript is updating the page. Yeah, I don't know if that helps as an explanation. I don't know if you've got anything to add to that, Richard or James.
No, that's a great explanation, yeah.
Yeah, and where it is used within the design system, then it is useful. So as we saw an example there, to kind of basically associate the hint text, for example, with the radio buttons. But if it's not in the design system, really do have a careful thing.
Okay, there's an interesting question there. There are some errors that seem very technical, and it's hard to see what impacts they would actually have on a user in the real world. Are there any resources for looking up how they affect a user?
That's a good question. I think I've tried in the answers that live on the website to include reference to the impact they might have on a user, but I will go back and check and update any where that's not present.
Some tips on the Wave tester. If you click on the information, you can maybe just bring that up briefly, Beverly. Where Wave flags an issue, you'll usually get an information button next to it on the details tab, and you can click in there and it will basically give you more details about it, and in particular kind of why it matters, you can see there. And that's often also a kind of summary of a longer explanation, which is on the WCAG guidelines website. And so in there, it can give you more details about who this can affect and why.
And someone else has asked, as this is totally new to me and I'm not a tester, can you show again how you drill down to show the code on the right-hand side column, please?
Yes. So I right-click and I choose Inspect Element. And this will bring up something called the DevTools. And that allows you to, I guess, inspect the HTML that's on the page. So when you hover over the different elements, it will highlight to the left what it is that it's affecting on the page. Or yeah, as Michael says, you can also press F12.
Yeah, I was just going to say that as well, but yeah, that's great. It's great that it works with the keyboard, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And also Sam Patel has said has made a good point. This is why it's so important to test or to do user research with users with access needs. Absolutely, this testing does not replace that. I think a good way of thinking about this testing is that it gets it to a point where your user testing with people with access needs is more inclusive, because they're not being kind of held back by these sorts of issues.
Yeah, we always recommend doing testing with users with access needs, and this is just a part of the whole testing process. Yeah.
It's worth noting the code view. There is a feature within Wave as well to bring up a code view. So if you're investigating a particular issue that Wave has found, you can use that as well. And one advantage that does have is Wave itself puts HTML into the web page, which I think the code inspector view will show you the Wave bits, whereas the Wave one hides them, if that makes sense. So it can be a bit easier to see what's going on by using the Wave code inspector.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, thanks again, everyone. Thanks for joining us today.